Hi kids! I thought I would go ahead and do the second part to continue on with the next story, in case any of you guys watch it and are really interested in what the other plagues are going to be. So, and what happens to the children of Israel. Well, let's get started. This one is called Blood on the Doorposts. What does that mean? That sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? Sounds kind of creepy. Why is there blood on the doorposts? Well, we'll have to get into the story and see. But we'll first start out with a Bible verse about this story, which is in the second book of the Bible, Exodus, right after Genesis. And you'll look for chapter 12, verse 13. And it says, "And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt." And that is God telling the Israelites, if they put the blood on their door, God will go past them and not hurt nobody in that house. Because as you see from the big plague that's coming, you'll see. I can't spill the beans, but you'll see. So let's get into it. Although the people of Israel had wondered about Moses at first, it soon became clear that God was with him. Wherever Moses and Aaron used their wonderful rod, the Lord sent all kinds of plagues upon the enemies of the Israelites, the Egyptians. And while there was hell in Egypt, the Israelites' homeland was fine weather. When the diseases came, they stayed healthy, and when the darkness covered Egypt, they worked in bright sunshine. Now the time had come for them to prepare to leave Egypt. The Lord had told Moses that he was about to send the last plague upon Pharaoh at midnight. Now remember, God has to do something drastic, because no matter what he does, Pharaoh will not free his people. So, now the time had come for them to prepare to leave Egypt. The Lord had told Moses that he was about to send his last plague upon Pharaoh. At midnight he was going to pass through the land, and the oldest son in every house would die. This plague was going to be so terrible that Pharaoh was going to change his mind and send the Israelites away. In order to keep the death plague from hurting them, the Israelites, God told Moses some special things he wanted his people to do. Each family was to take a lamb and kill it as they would for a sacrifice. And they were to take its blood and sprinkle it at the doorway of their house, on the frame over the door and on each side. When the Lord came, he would pass over the houses where he saw the blood of the lamb. And I'll show you guys a picture. Excuse me, death of the firstborn. You see people weeping and crying. And no child would die there if there was blood on the lamb's blood on their door. The lamb itself was to be cooked with some vegetables and prepared for a big dinner. Back then they did a lot of animal sacrifices. When the family ate the dinner, they were to be dressed with their shoes and coats on, ready to leave Egypt at any moment. So God knew this was going to work. He's God. He knows everything. He knows this will make Pharaoh change his mind when he kills his son. Quickly the Israelites set about to obey the commands of God. The lamb was cooked and its blood sprinkled on the doorposts. Each family sat down, dressed for traveling, to eat the lamb and a little flat wafers, especially prepared for the dinner. The dinner or feast was known as the first Passover. So if you see Passover on the calendar and, we're celebrating Passover, you hear somebody say, you're wondering, what's Passover? Well, that's what Passover is. It is when the Israelites put lamb's blood on their doors, and the Lord God passed through the land of Egypt that night and killed all the firstborns. that didn't have the lamb's blood on their door, which the only ones that had the lamb's blood on their door were the Israelites, and maybe some of the Egyptians that were on Moses' side, maybe. But most of the Egyptians, like Pharaoh's son, would not survive. Let's see. I lost my place. Hang on. The dinner or feast was known as the first Passover, for it was eaten on the night when the Lord passed over the Israelites and struck the homes of the Egyptians. It became a great feast for the Hebrew people, and they ate the same kind of dinner every year afterward, as they were commanded. It reminded them of the wonderful way God saved them. Promptly, at midnight, death rushed through the land. Not one house of the Egyptians was missed. In every home, from Pharaoh's palace to his lowest servant's cottage, the oldest boy fell down dead. A cry went up from the Egyptians as their children were taken from them. In the middle of the night, Pharaoh sent for Moses and Aaron and said, "Take your people and go. Take everything you have and get out of our land, and pray to your God to harm me no more." Moses and Aaron hurried back to their people. This was the time for which they had been waiting for. 430 years had passed since Jacob took his family down into Egypt to be with Joseph during the famine. Now that family of 12 sons had become a nation of more than 1 million people, divided into 12 tribes according to the son from which they came. What a procession the group made! Thousands of people, from babies to grandmothers, many with packs of clothes or dishes or food upon their backs, marched out of Egypt as God led them. Behind them came cattle, sheep, and goats, braying and bleating in their attempt to follow the crowd. Gone forever were the days of slavery in Egypt, for their God was leading them home to the land he had promised their fathers long before. So as you can see, God won. Did God want to have to do that? Kill all the firstborns? No. But that was Pharaoh's choice. Pharaoh kept tempting God and kept lying to him, saying, "Yeah, I'll let him go. Just stop this plague." And then he would stop it, and then Pharaoh would still not let his people go. So he had to do what he had to do to set the slaves free. And that's what he did. So that was the story, guys. That was the last plague. And you will see in the next story how some of the Israelites' travels as they're going out of Egypt. So I hope you guys enjoyed the second part to the story of the plagues. And I hope you guys are having a great week. Like this video if you enjoyed it and you learned something from the Bible today. That's always a plus. It's what I'm hoping for. Hoping you guys learn something new about the Bible and about God by watching these videos. And maybe you'll tell your friends and others too. I love you guys. Let's bring those souls to Jesus. And God willing, I'll see you guys again soon with another Bible story. Bye guys. God bless.